Happy Friday, everybody. Today is July 17th, 2026, and this is your Friday planning video. There's one thing that every person on earth has exactly the same amount of. Doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or you're struggling financially. It doesn't matter whether you're 25 or you're 75. It doesn't matter what your job title is, where you live, or how successful you've been. We all get 24 hours in a day, not 25 and not 26, 24. And yet, if you ask people what resource they value most, the older they get, the more likely they are to answer with one word: time. Not money, time. I was reminded of that recently during a conversation with a client who's still working full time and doing quite well professionally. We were reviewing his financial plan and discussing a few potential changes when he said something that caught my attention. He said, "You know, Randy, I can always make more money. What I'm starting to realize is that I can't make more time." Now, that is not exactly a groundbreaking observation. We've all heard versions of that before, but it struck me because of where he was in his life. He wasn't struggling financially, he wasn't worried about retirement, he wasn't trying to figure out how to make ends meet. What he was wrestling with was a different question entirely. How do I want to spend my time? And the more we talked, the more I realized that the conversation had very little to do with money. It was about priorities. It was about deciding what was worth saying yes to and what was worth saying no to. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts that happens as people move through life. When we're younger, we often spend time to make money. As we get older, many of us begin using money to create time. Think about that for a moment. When you're building a career, working long hours often makes sense. You're investing in your future. You're building skills, relationships, opportunities, and financial security. But eventually, many people reach a point where the goal begins to change. The question becomes less about how much money can I make and more about how I want to spend my time. I've seen this play out hundreds of times over the years. A business owner sells his company and suddenly has more control over their schedule. A professional reduces their workload from 5 days a week to 4. A retiree realizes they don't want to spend all their time on the golf course and instead chooses to volunteer or to mentor or to spend time with family. The details vary, but the underlying theme is remarkably consistent. People start valuing time differently. A number of years ago, I had a client who retired after a long, successful career. Like many people, he spent years preparing financially for retirement. We had conversations about investments and income planning, taxes, healthcare, and all the other things that go into building a retirement plan. About 6 months after he retired, he came into the office. We started catching up. I asked him, "How's retirement going?" His answer surprised me. He said, "The best part isn't what I'm doing, it's what I'm not doing." Naturally, I asked what he meant. He said, "For the first time in decades, I don't feel rushed." I remember that answer because it was so simple and yet so honest. He wasn't talking about travel or hobbies. He wasn't talking about money. He was talking about having control over his time. He was talking about not feeling like every minute of every day had already been spoken for. And I think many people can relate to that feeling. Life gets busy. Careers become demanding. Families need attention. Calendars fill up. Before we know it, weeks become months and months become years. That's why I believe one of the greatest benefits of thoughtful financial planning is that it helps create flexibility around time. Now, I want to be careful here because money alone cannot create more time. No amount of wealth can give us a 25th hour in the day, but money can create choices about how we use the time we do have. It can allow us to retire earlier, it can allow us to work less, spend more time with the people we care about. It can allow us to pursue experiences and opportunities that might otherwise be unavailable. In that sense, financial planning isn't really about accumulating money only. It's about aligning those resources with priorities. One of the most common priorities I hear from clients is surprisingly consistent. They want more time with the people they love: their grandchildren, their children, their spouses, their friends, their community. When people look back on their lives, they rarely wish they had spent more time reviewing their quarterly statements. They wish they had spent more time with the people that mattered. That realization has influenced the way I think about planning. Because if money is simply a tool, then the question becomes, what is the tool helping us build? For many people, the answer is time. Time to travel, to volunteer, to learn, to rest, time to enjoy experiences, time to be present. Last week, we talked about optionality and the importance of creating choices. This week, I'd suggest that one of the most valuable choices money can create is the ability to decide how you spend your time. It's not a luxury. It's one of the most meaningful forms of wealth there is. As I get older and as I continue working with clients through different stages of life, I've become increasingly convinced that financial success isn't just about what you've accumulated. It's also about whether your resources are helping you spend your time in ways that reflect your values. That's a very different question than how much do I have. It's a question about purpose. It's a question about priorities. And ultimately, it's a question about how we want to live. As you head into the weekend, I'd encourage you to think about your own relationship with time. If someone gave you 10 extra hours every week, how would you use them? Would you spend more time with family? Would you pursue a hobby you've neglected? Would you volunteer or travel? Would you simply slow down a little? Your answer may tell you something important about what matters most to you. And once you know that, financial planning becomes much more meaningful because now you're not simply managing money. You're using money to support the life you want to live. If you'd like to talk about whether your financial plan is helping create more flexibility around your time and priorities, I'm always happy to have that conversation. For now, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.